for the sake of course, conversation, we can, distinction just to understand, we call disability and all of that. But I don't really see them as that. I just see a soul inhabiting a certain kind of apparatus. Sometimes that apparatus, like even a lot of times I meet kids who have been described as ADD and all of that, right? Or now this is very big, what is it? Autism, right? Which is like exploding, right? But what I see a lot of time is that the problem is not with the kid. The problem is often the environment where we are forcing the kid to fit into. Do you understand? So I don't really see it as a problem first, meaning from that traditional standpoint. So my really invitation with people who are working with kids with any kind of, is to first really look at that soul, that in that soul there is liberation already. So not to identify them as that, so that when you think of them, that's not the first thing that comes to your mind. Do you comprehend? The first thing that when we see them, we should see their brilliance, a soul which is just inhabiting an apparatus, but that soul is as great as any. I tell you a story. Ashtavakra, there was this great Indian master. Ashtavakra, Vakra means deformed, Ashta means 8. So he was deformed from 8 parts of his body. He couldn't walk, right? So his father was a great scholar, very well respected. He spoke, on Vedas and Upanishads, and you understand? He was a great self-help coach all over ancient India. Yeah, he was very famous. He wrote many books. And his wife got pregnant with his, but this man had a lot of power, right? And he was very angry person. Do you understand? Just very angry, very like arrogant and angry. So he would come and always treat his wife in a very unconscious manner. So one day he was abusing his wife for no rhyme, just because he was angry. And the wife was pregnant. From inside the womb, Ashtavakra spoke. That you call yourself wise, you are the most ignorant. All your wisdom is a facade. In that moment, through his anger, he cursed his son. That who are you? You are, you will be born deformed. Do you understand? So the child is born next month after that. And it's deformed, right? Very crooked and not very pleasing to the eye. His father never looks at him, always treats him as, right? He grows up only with his mother. Then Dashrath, one of the kings, of the kingdom, he is a lover of wisdom. He's just a lover of wisdom, like a philosopher king, which is what our world needs really, is philosopher kings. That's the kind of government which will work. It's really, the communism doesn't work. Democracy is really just all about manipulation. Who can lie better?
Maybe you can run.
No, you can't run as a philosopher king.
We'll nominate you anyway.
But he was a philosopher king, so he invited a lot of philosophers, scholars in his, and he used to have these gatherings. Ashtavakra was young, now he was hitting teenage. And there was this big gathering, one of the biggest gathering he had ever had in his kingdom, right? So Ashtavakra got inspired that he wanted to speak. So he crawled himself to the palace. The soldiers wouldn't let him in, right? Somehow he got in. He gets in there. Everybody has spoken. So the king asks, is there anybody else who wants to speak? And Ashtavakra says, me. They look around, there is nobody. And they say, look down, and he's on the floor. So the knee-jerk reaction of these people, two reactions. laughter and pity. Do you comprehend? Like, oh, half of the hall goes, oh, and the half of the hall goes, hey. Do you understand? He looks at that all, and his thunderous voice, this little kid says, I changed my mind. I'm not interested in speaking in a gathering of cobblers. I thought this was a gathering of the wise, but this is a gathering of cobblers. Do you understand? You all have no clue who I am, and you judge me so quickly. So indisciplined is your own mind that you judge me just the way you perceive me in this very moment. The king that gets off from his throne, brings him, gives his seat to this kid, Ashtavakra, and then he speaks, and that is recorded. There is actually a book called Ashtavakra Gita. There is the Bhagavad Gita, and then there is a book called Ashtavakra Gita, which records his teachings that he gave there. Do you understand? So that's very important to realize that in the soul level there is a brilliance there, right? Then, so when we can, as people who are working with them, as we can see with that, then we are not so identified with their disability. To comprehend, we are identified more with their ability. And then of course there are tools, right, you have to work with on the level of thought training, on the level of balancing the brain, giving them certain techniques, which you are doing, and also then we can work with them as from their standpoint, not to try and from a perspective of that there is something wrong.